The Dead Crow by A. Samad Said. He saw a dead crow in a drain near the post office. He saw an old man gasping for air and a baby barely able to breathe in a crowded morning clinic. This land is so rich. Why should we suffer like this? I want clean air for my grandchildren. I want the damn fools to leave the forest alone. I want the trees to grow and the rivers to run free and the earth covered in grass. Let the politicians plan how we may live with dignity, now and always. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad AMIRUL bin ADNAN, and together with my partner Muhammad ALIF IZZAT bin JAFFRI, to dissect the poem entitled The Dead Crow, written by the legendary A. Samad Said. As for my articulation of the poem, there are several things that we can gain from it, which is the initial impression. Our initial impression of the poem is that the poem Dead Crow is straightforward and easy to comprehend, as it does not use words that require a high level of vocabulary usage. The poem also displays a sad and depressing nature. However, throughout a thorough analysis of the poem, I would consider that the poem is rather political, in spite of its awareness towards the environment. Through a thorough analysis, one may conclude that the theme of the poem is the degradation of the environment, alongside injustice that occurs in our society. It can be seen as the poem reflects the poet's concern about how human greed and political negligence have destroyed the environment and harmed people's quality of life. The poem also expresses the poet's longing for a cleaner, healthier, and more dignified future for the next generations moving onwards. There are several messages that are delivered from the poet to the readers. For example, the message of pollution towards the environment. In the poem, the poet highlights the worsening state of the environment through several images, such as the dead crow, the polluted drains, and the suffocation of people. Another message that the reader can obtain through the poem is regarding the call for environmental preservation. The poet conveys his desire and wish for the trees to continue growing, for the rivers to flow freely, and for the earth to be covered in grass. The line, "I want the damn fools to leave the forest alone," clearly displays the poet's rage towards politicians who destroys forests in exchange for profit, while ignoring the consequences of what may happen towards the environment when due time, thus conveying the message of exploitation of nature. And last but not least, the poet delivers his message of his hope for the future generations. The poet expressed his desire for clean air for my grandchildren, for further shown his concern and caring nature towards the future generations, and calls to protect the planet by taking care of the environment for the upcoming generations.
So for the structure and form, this poem is a free verse, which is it does not follow a specific rhyming scheme. And next, lineation and syntax, usage of simple wordings to emphasize directness. And last but not least, the stanza and the line. So first stanza, it consists of 7 lines, which is descriptive and heavy with the imagery of suffering. And the second stanza consists of 9 lines, which is longer, more expressive of hopes and wishes. So the line length is irregular, which some is short and some is long, to emphasize the natural flow. Language and imagery. First is simile. There is no direct simile in this poem. Second is personification. lines like, I want the trees to grow, the rivers to run free, personify nature and imply that it has a life of its own. This personification highlights the idea that the environment should be respected and allowed to flourish, much like people. And last but not least is metaphor. The dead crow in a drain is a metaphor for pollution, decay and death that illustrates how human negligence is destroying the natural world. A sickening society where individuals suffer as a result of environmental negligence is symbolized by the sentence crowded morning clinic. And last is this land is so rich, why should we suffer like this? Draws a comparison between the country's natural wealth and its citizen poverty. So next, for apostrophe, the poet expressed displeasure and calls for action by directly addressing invisible entities like the politicians and the damn fools. The poet's passionate plea to those in position of authority to alter their ways is expressed through this apostrophe. Next is irony. So there is two types of irony in this poem. First is situational irony. So people are suffering even though the area is said to be so rich, which ironically, prosperity and well-being are not correlated with wealth or natural resources. And the other one is verbal irony. So the phrase, the land is so rich, why should we suffer like this? Is the tone of the poet seems doubtful, but it's really a critique of society's shortcomings. For imagery, first we have sight, phrases like dead crow in drain, old man gasping, and baby barely able to breathe effectively conveys the image of illness, death, and human misery. Second is smell. It is implied by the drain and pollution, where the reader might picture offensive, disagreeable smells in the poem. And the second one is symbolism. Okay, the dead crow. It is a symbol of pollution, decay, and death of nature. Second is old man and baby. It represents human vulnerability and the suffering of both the old and the young. And last is trees, rivers, and grass. It is symbols of life, freedom, balance in nature, clean air, symbol of hope, purity, and a better future. So for the interpretation, this poem highlights the issue of everything that is wrong within our society and environment. Elements of greed, neglect, and the refusal to keep our mouth shut on this issue. The dead crow is not just an image of death. It is a sign that it happens once people stop caring about these issues. The expression of when the old man gasping for air and when the baby struggles to breathe does not only mean sickness, rather that injustice that occurs daily when environmental destruction occurs by excessive pollution. The line, "This land is so rich, why should we suffer like this?" requires a deep analysis. The question one might inquire upon witnessing a world that is full of potential, ruined by corruption, foolishness, and arrogance. From being a witness to becoming a warrior, the "I want" in the poem does not interpret as a begging, but rather as a demand. It is as if someone is saying, enough of all this bullshit, all this nonsense. A firm and grounded voice that is tired of all these false promises. One who yearns for peace and life worth with dignity and balance rather than luxury. One who longs for fresh air, untainted rivers, and vast blooming forests. That mirrors longing that has a world purely, both literally and morally. So when the line goes, let the politicians plan how we may live with dignity, hope, now and always, it resonates one longing for hope in accordance with sarcasm. Power blinds those who are weak, but still demands accountability through entitlement. One wishes for humanity to rise above greed, not because it is nice rather than it is necessity, but because it is the right thing to do. That's all from us. Thank you.